Imagine this. You've just heard a piece of criticism that caught you completely off guard. On the outside, you smile, nod your head, but on the inside, it feels like something shattered. Your chest tightens, your mind starts to spin, and all you want is to disappear. Have you ever felt that? So many people walk around carrying this silent desire, the desire to be unshakable, to feel no pain, to be immune to criticism, rejection, loss, betrayal. It's like we want to become a rock, solid, strong, but cold. And that's when the performance begins. We put on an emotional armor and try to seem okay all the time. But you know what's worse? While you try to hide your pain from the world, you're the one who keeps feeling it every single day, alone, in silence. That exhaustion from maintaining a constant image of strength is draining. And deep down, what we really want isn't to become unshakable. We just want to stop suffering. But there's a detail here that almost no one notices. When we try to run from pain all the time, we actually give it more power. The escape becomes a cycle. And every time you try to avoid discomfort, it grows inside you. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. It might stay there for a while, but the more you force it down, the more it wants to rise. So the real power isn't in becoming immune. It's in learning to feel without falling apart. It's in welcoming the pain without identifying with it. Now think with me. If trying to run from pain only makes it grow, could there be another way? What if I told you that pain actually has a much more powerful role than it seems? That's where one of the biggest mistakes we make without even realizing it comes in. The illusion of control. And understanding that can completely transform the way you deal with your emotions. Let me show you why. Imagine this. You're driving, listening to some peaceful music, when suddenly someone cuts you off in traffic. Your heart races, your body tenses up, and before you even realize it, anger takes over. You try to play it cool, but inside, everything's on fire. Why? Why did something so small affect you so much? The truth is, most of our deepest pain doesn't come from what happens on the outside. It comes from what still hasn't been healed inside us. And this is where a trap catches almost everyone, the illusion of control. We think we can control everything, our emotions, our thoughts, what others say, what life throws at us. But what do we actually do? We run from pain, avoid it, suppress it, cover it up. And here's the problem. Trying to avoid pain is what gives it power. Every time you push a feeling under the rug, it grows in the shadows. Then, when something external happens, a criticism, a breakup, a loss, it doesn't just hurt because of what it is. It hurts because it touches an inner wound that was already there, waiting. It's like touching an open wound. The touch is light, but the pain is deep. And the more you try to control everything just to avoid pain, the more of a prisoner to it you become. Because living in constant avoidance of discomfort is like running from an invisible enemy. You get exhausted, and you never really escape. Now here's the turning point. Pain is actually a reflection of what still needs to be integrated within you. It's not the enemy. It's a signal. It shows you where love, presence, and truth are still missing. Think of someone who always explodes with anger when they're ignored. The real issue isn't being ignored. It's the feeling of abandonment, of being invisible that they've carried for years and never faced. The situation just activates what was already there. So, if you truly want to be free, it's not about controlling everything. It's about looking inward and understanding what still hurts, what still holds you back, what still controls you without you even realizing it. And here's a direct question. What's hurting you today? Is it really about the present? Or is it just an old wound asking to be heard? Because when you start welcoming that pain instead of running from it, something changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You become lighter and so much stronger. Now, speaking of strength, there's a concept a lot of people confuse, and it might be sabotaging your growth without you even noticing. The idea of being strong. But what often hides behind that strength is just a shield. Picture this familiar scene. You're in the middle of a rough day. Someone hurts you, and you feel like crying, screaming, letting it all out. But what do? You swallow hard, pretend everything's fine, put on that little smile and carry on as if nothing happened. After all, you're strong, right? But let me ask you something. Is this strength you've learned to have really strength? Because what no one told you is that this idea that being strong means not feeling, not crying, not being shaken, is a trap. One of the most dangerous ones. We were trained to believe that feeling is weakness, that showing emotion is a sign of instability. But in reality, what happens is that the more we run from our emotions, the more they control us from the inside. Have you noticed how some people explode over the smallest things, or live in constant defense mode, as if the whole world were a threat? That happens because unresolved emotions turn into internal ticking time bombs. And the more you repress, the more emotionally fragile you become, not on the outside, but on the inside. And then the coldness that once seemed like protection becomes a prison. You distance yourself from others, from your own self, and you lose the ability to truly feel. Real strength isn't about seeming unshakable. It's about integrating what you feel. It's about looking at your shadows, your pain, your insecurities, and saying, "It's okay. I see you, but you don't control me anymore." A person who acknowledges their fear is able to choose how to act. A person who pretends they're not afraid stays stuck without even knowing why. Integration isn't weakness, it's courage. It's stepping out of autopilot and taking internal command. And that's where true emotional freedom begins. When you stop running from pain and start listening to what it's trying to tell you. Now, let me show you something that goes even deeper, because there's a part of you that influences absolutely everything. Your relationships, your reactions, your decisions, but it operates completely in the dark. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but you feel its effects every single day. It's your unconscious. And the craziest part, it might be the one driving your life, while you believe you're in control. Picture this. You're going about your day. Everything seems fine on the surface. But out of nowhere, a wave of sadness hits you, and you have no idea where it came from. Or maybe you snap over something trivial. You say things you didn't mean to say. And later you wonder, why did I react like that? This scene is more common than it seems, and it has an explanation. You might think it's just stress, PMS, a lack of patience. But the truth is, there's someone behind the wheel of your life. And it's not you. That someone is your unconscious. And as Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You know that tendency to repeat patterns, get into toxic relationships, procrastinate on the same things, sabotage your own success? None of that is bad luck. It's your unconscious crying out for help. So what exactly is the unconscious? Put simply, it's the part of your mind that holds everything you've experienced, but never had the space to process. Old traumas, buried fears, suppressed emotions, beliefs you don't even know you have. And here's the wild part. The unconscious never disappears. It just shapeshifts. And often it takes on sabotaging forms. Emotional outbursts, sadness without cause, chronic anxiety, choices you regret later. All of these might be your unconscious screaming for attention. But here's the good news. You don't have to be a prisoner to it. The more you get to know yourself, the freer you become. And I'm not talking about surface-level self-awareness like knowing your zodiac sign or what you enjoy doing on weekends. I mean truly looking inward, asking yourself, why does this bother me so much? Where does this reaction come from? What part of me am I trying to protect? It's like digging into the soil of your mind and discovering the roots of what's really holding you back. Someone who always sabotages themselves just before achieving something big might, deep down, hold an unconscious belief that they don't deserve to succeed. That belief could stem from something in childhood, a criticism, an abandonment, a rejection, and unless they face it, they'll keep stumbling over the same stones. That's why the real battlefield isn't out there. It's within. And the more you face that internal battle, the stronger you become, as a whole. Now here's something interesting. Even when people start uncovering those internal roots, many still fall into a cycle of control. They try to manage everything they feel, avoid being hurt again, build walls, wear masks, shut down. But what if I told you that this attempt at self-protection might actually be weakening you even more? You walk into a room full of people. Your heart starts to race, and everyone's gaze feels heavy. So you straighten up, force a smile, and tell yourself, stay cool, don't let anyone see what you're feeling. That invisible armor you put on, it feels like protection, but in reality, it might be holding you back. This is the trap of self-protection. We're constantly trying to control how the world treats us. We want to make sure no one hurts us, that nothing gets out of hand, that everything follows a safe script. And to do that, we create masks. The strong one, the always fine, the I don't care about anything mask. But there's a price behind this strategy, constant tension, built-up frustration, and a pain that only deepens. On the outside, you pretend everything's fine. But on the inside, it's like holding a compressed spring 24 hours a day. It's exhausting. And at some point, that spring snaps, usually in the worst way. This attempt to escape pain, to avoid feeling, doesn't make you stronger. It makes you more fragile. Because overprotecting yourself from the world also stops you from truly living. Have you noticed how emotionally closed-off people often seem tough? But all it takes is one moment of vulnerability, and everything crumbles. That's because it's not toughness that sustains us. It's integration, it's acceptance, it's truth. The pain you avoid today becomes the blockage of tomorrow, but the pain you face, with courage and presence, becomes power. Power to choose, to respond, to stop reacting on autopilot. Think of someone who was betrayed and decides to never trust anyone again. The intention sounds logical. I don't want to be hurt again. But in practice, that decision blocks all the real connections that could come. They're not avoiding pain. They're living in pain all the time. The solution isn't to build walls. It's to strengthen the internal foundation. And that begins when we stop fighting what we feel and start facing it. When we understand that feeling pain isn't weakness, it's part of the healing process. And if you've made it this far, you've already taken an important step, recognizing that running from pain doesn't work. But there's more, because facing pain is just the beginning. There's a deeper path where you not only welcome what you feel, but you integrate it all within you. And that's where true emotional freedom begins. After all, the goal isn't to be cold and immune. It's to be whole. Imagine you're in the middle of a storm. The wind is pounding, the rain hits your face, and all you want to do is run and hide. But instead, you stop, you breathe, you feel every drop, every shiver, and rather than running away, you stay. That is the image of true emotional strength. A lot of people think being unshakable means feeling nothing, that it's about closing your heart and moving forward as if nothing happened. But that's not strength, that's numbness. To be unshakable is to feel everything, without getting lost in the chaos. It's to feel anger, sadness, fear, and still be able to make conscious choices. It's to see the pain, recognize the trigger, but not let it drag you down. And how do you reach that level of presence? Through integration. To integrate is to stop fighting parts of yourself. It's to stop trying to hide your wounds, your fears, your insecurities, and start listening to what they have to tell you. It's as if you were a puzzle, and each piece, even the ones you reject, was essential. When you integrate those parts, something magical happens. You stop being an emotional puppet, reacting on autopilot, and begin to act with clarity, with real freedom. You know that moment when someone says something that would normally make you explode? But this time you breathe, you understand what you're feeling, and you choose how to respond. That is integration in action. And the wildest part, it's not mystical, unreachable, or something that demands years of therapy. It's a process that begins the moment you stop running from yourself. You feel fear, Great. What is it trying to show you? You feel envy, anger, sadness. Perfect. Those emotions are not the problem. The problem is when you suppress them, pretend they don't exist, and then they end up controlling you from behind the scenes. When you integrate, you become the protagonist of your story. You no longer have to be controlled by old traumas or by the masks you built to protect yourself, and that kind of freedom is priceless. Now, if integration is the process of becoming whole, there's a next step that goes even deeper, because there's a process that leads you to discover who you truly are, beneath all those social layers, traumas, and characters you've learned to play. It's an intense journey, sometimes uncomfortable, but deeply liberating. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now, because maybe what's been stopping you from living with authenticity isn't a lack of strength, but an excess of masks. Imagine this. You walk into a dark, silent room. In the center, there's a mirror. But when you look, you don't just see your reflection. You see versions of yourself that were never accepted. Wounds, fears, desires you hide even from yourself. Terrifying. Maybe. Liberating. Absolutely. This is the beginning of the deepest journey you can take. The journey of individuation. Most of us go through life playing a role. Smiling when we want to scream. Agreeing when we want to disagree. We wear a persona. A social mask we create to be accepted, praised, loved. But over time, that comes at a cost. You start to disconnect from who you really are. You mold yourself so much to what others expect that you end up losing yourself in the process. Individuation is the path back. It's looking inward and recognizing, this pain is mine. This anger is mine. This light is mine too. It's letting go of the fantasy of perfection and accepting that you are made of both shadow and light, of successes and mistakes, of courage and fear. Carl Jung said, "No one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's exactly it. Individuation isn't about becoming someone better. It's about stopping the act of being someone you're not. How does this affect you? When you live only on the surface, trying to please the world, your energy becomes fragmented. You feel tired, confused, empty, because you're far from your truth. But when you begin to integrate, ego and unconscious, persona and shadow, everything changes. You start to act with more clarity, more authenticity, more inner strength. You stop chasing approval and begin to live with purpose. So what can you do? Start observing your patterns. When do you say yes, but deep down want to say no? What parts of yourself do you judge or hide? The answer is always within. A simple example, some people spend their lives trying to always be the nice one, to avoid conflict. But behind that, there's often repressed anger, a fear of rejection. When that person recognizes that part of themselves, without judgment, they become freer, more whole. That's the power of individuation. It's not about creating a new version of you. It's about remembering who you've always been, before the world taught you to hide. If this content helped you, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and hit the like button to support us in bringing more videos like this.